So maybe if I'm the incumbent, I need to partner or set up an API to a payment wallet or something like that. So Riaz, now I'm back on your doorstep. How would I pull everything together and link that ability, willingness to repay data kind of in this automated API-driven environment?
Yeah, so I think it's, first of all, super important to understand your customer journey, because there is no one size fits all. Like Tarun leaned towards, you've got your youth, they want 7 or 8 clicks. You've got this other unbanked or the deprived population, they okay with 10 to 12 clicks, etc. So there's no one size fits all. So we need to understand our segment. We need to understand who we're lending to and what their expectations are. And I think once we have that, from a system perspective, it's relatively straightforward to be able to, I mean, everyone's got APIs. Now you speak to most government entities and ministries, and etc. All of them have APIs available, right? I think where it comes in is in this customer journey, where is the best place to start executing these APIs? What data sources from these APIs are important for me from a credit decisioning perspective? So we need to understand the data that's coming through. You know, from a credit decisioning perspective, we need data that is going to be stable. We need data that is going to be consistent. And we need data that we can analyze over time so that, you know, with that old saying of past is representative of the future. So we need some sort of stability. We need data in electronic and readable format so that we could use this and turn it into actionable insights. And everything, I mean, there's no immediate answer to everything. It's all about taking the data, learning from it, and every year going through this champion challenger process, constantly challenging, enhancing, looking at new data sources to be able to automate this lending decision so that we could have your no-fuss banking in a matter of seconds. So there are systems available. You need a good rules and decision engine that as an organization allows you to bring in new data sources, that allows you as a business user to be in control of your parameters, to be in control of your credit decisioning, your scoring, your risk assessment, your risk-based pricing, your affordability, your limit calculations, etc. So having the right platforms in place in the beginning is paramount to having a sort of dynamic customer journey that I can adjust as per my customer needs going forward. It's a reliance, or it's removing the reliance from IT and putting the reliance into the business users. And I mean, there are systems out there that will allow you to do this. And that's exactly what we help our organizations with, our clients with.
Got it. So then they're left to redefine the customer experience. I think that piece is actually not so easy. And when I say that, I think, you know, in our workshops when we're working with people on how to use alternative data, I think you guys made very important comments about the population. Each population is so different. There's no one size fits all. And so, for example, you're not going to throw this type of alternative data at mortgage applications because they're not going to be applying for the mortgage if they're a credit invisible. They need to take the first couple steps before that up the ladder, right? So the first is to find the right suitable population. And then I think redefining some of your product offerings. So, for example, starting out with a really small credit offer, and then let that person keep repaying and keep moving them up the value chain very quickly and dynamically. So Riaz, I think that's where the platforms empower you, because you can set up a rule-based engine that ensures that, you know, people can get moved up that value chain pretty fast. So then you can be more flexible about your opening credit offer. You're not doing I'm going to give you this big loan for the next 3 years. You can start small and rethink how you make those offers.
Absolutely. And it's about understanding where your customer is in their life stage, right? And in their personal life journey. And as long as your product offering is matching or exceeding where they are in their life stage, it will always be attractive to them.
Well, yeah. And also with the current cloud-based automation and platforms, you know, the unit cost of additional credit applications should be much lower than it was historically, right? So historically, like, well, my cost of even processing this application is so high because I'm going to push around this stack of paper. I need to give a reasonably big sized loan. And some of those preconceived assumptions and notions about unit costs for credit, I think, have changed. And that really frees you up to make smaller loans. I mean, that's where sort of BNPL came from, that now we can give these very small, short duration loans, see the customer's behavior, and then, you know, offer them another loan. So I think the change in the unit costs is an enabler for you to really rethink that customer journey and make a different offer.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head, right? So the smaller, the cheaper the unit cost, the smaller can be my finance amount. The greater is going to be the quantity, and it's going to be a larger segment that I'm going to be focusing on. Absolutely,
exactly. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking about customers, etc. Yeah, and you know, Tarun or Riaz, do you have any? You know, I realize that time is flying already, but you know, any inspirational examples that you've seen out there in the market? People, you know, I'd love to hear, you know, product, even tweaks to products that have been offered, use cases, ways that your data has been used, Tarun, that you think are kind of aspirational or inspirational or cool.
Sorry, Michelle, you would have to ask me that again. Sorry, I was distracted for a moment. Please go ahead. Sorry. Ask me.
I was just wondering about what examples come to mind that you've seen in terms of like using this type of alternative data, you know, like product examples, any tweaks to products you've seen that are cool, like the lender was doing things in a different way that you think are good examples.
You know, I think there have been a couple of clients we've had in Africa, and now we're looking at other places as well. They say it's very difficult to source clients. You know, you acquire leads and it's very easy to say, oh, you don't meet the cut, I'm going to reject you. I was talking to a few clients who said this, with this solution, I will not say no to anybody. I would probably give them a loan for a shorter duration, lesser amount, at a higher interest rate. And I would let them know, hey, we don't know much about you. So I'm giving you that loan, but I'm charging you 2 percentage point extra. However, if we see a good behavior pattern from you, you could come back to the normal. So this way, they've been able to price and structure their products in a much better way, wherein they are understanding with higher interest rates, they are absorbing the higher cost of risk initially to test out, not saying no, because a good client lost is a client lost forever. So they give them lesser duration, see their payment patterns. And, you know, there's some banks, sorry, not banks, I would say, there's some lenders we have seen just to understand the credit worthiness. They have said, instead of monthly installment, yes, I could give you this, but can you move to fortnightly installment? So you could see early on if their patterns change. So these are the tweaks which are needed on the product side from a banking perspective. These changes need to be done in the core backend system. So what I like is solutions like credolab, while they are very niche and small in their own space, they are making the lenders think very differently how to package and structure the products to the end clients.
No, I think that it is a very new way of thinking to really rethink that credit proposition. And I think, so for example, we just did a digital small business lending workshop, and, you know, it was comprised of various people from that unit, but a lot of credit people. And the first exercise we do is around the customer experience, defining the customer personas to start there. And I guess I've been in the industry long enough. I'm sure we didn't used to think this way. And I like your nice example there of changing the payment frequency. It's a simple thing, but it can be very powerful in order to really address customers' needs in a different way, to give them a different type of loan that suits them, and give the customer some choices on which payment date they want, to make sure it's the day after their payday, for example. You know, let the consumer make some choices. I think that's really important. And that, like, I can't stress enough what we've seen out there, which is to really rethink the product structure. But the second thing is to rethink your partnership model as a lender. So whether you're partnering with a wallet or partnering with a shopping platform, something that really gives you, to your point, Tarun, the lender's challenge is sourcing the customers. Many fintechs have struggled with the cost to acquire customers very high, and sourcing them. So even if they're credit needy, they may still be difficult to source. So I think some of those partnership models could be quite helpful as you redefine your lending product. So I know we should wrap up soon, although every time we get going, guys, we can usually go for a lot longer. In this type of podcast, I think, any type of pro tips, things to think about, really practical steps people can take to address this credit invisible population, to leverage the new available data from, say, phones. What kind of guidance would you guys give? Give us some pro tips, insider tips, hacks, life hacks, whatever you want to call it. Where do people start? What can they do?
Yeah, so I'll just take a quick tab at it, which is probably one of our USPs as well. While you have the temptation of trying to understand more about your borrowers, keep an eye always on doing things the ethical way, the right way, making sure only permission consented data is being used. No personal data is ever used or misused. So that's very important. So I think these would be the qualifying criteria for any lender who wishes to use this very predictive source of data. It comes with its own share of temptations to do more than what you are needed to do. So be careful, because while data is predictive and powerful, you have to be very you need to have integrity and ethics around that as well. So that would be my suggestion to any lender listening to this podcast while evaluating solutions like these.
Oh, thank you for that. And how about you, Riaz? What kind of guidance would you provide?
Yeah, I'd say when redefining these customer journeys and re-looking at your systems and the solutions that you have, always try and procure solutions that are configurable, follow a zero code approach, that are geared towards lending, removes reliance on IT for changes, allows for dynamic control of your lending parameters, and essentially leaves the control in the hands of business users. I think those are all key components to cater to this ever-changing, ever-demanding customer base that we're going to be focusing on.
Absolutely, and what a great opportunity, because we have more data available these days. We have this large young population coming into the system, and certainly an opportunity for lenders to hopefully safely grow. They can safely grow into that population if done properly. So with that, we can wrap up. I just want to thank you guys for coming in again after our webinar. And just a reminder to all the listeners out there, we do have a recording of the webinar that we did recently, tapping into the Middle East youth market. And the thing in that webinar, if you listen to it, which is interesting, we also had an additional panelist, Halima Iqbal, from a company called Iran, and they talked through a use case and case study of how they are using this data live for mainly a female population in Pakistan. So don't miss that. And of course, you're always welcome to contact us for any further questions. We'd love to sit, since we're not always at conferences as much these days, just drop us a line. And a reminder, our panelists were from Qarar, Riaz Jassat, who's the Chief Commercial Officer, and I'm sure you'll find all his details in the show notes. And finally, Tarun Kumar Kalra, the SVP of Global Sales from credolab. These two gentlemen can certainly help you guys figure out how to put the pieces together to rethink your product offerings and go to this audience. And of course, myself, Michelle Katics, co-founder and CEO of BankersLab, we simulate it. So we put people in virtual lending worlds, which mimic what you would see in real life. So we can, do thought experiments, game it out, test and learn, and then you can go implement those strategies in the real world with the help of these gentlemen. So with that, thank you so much. And thank you to the folks at Qarar and credolab for organizing this, and to everybody behind the scenes for their organization and support to make this happen.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.